What up, guys? My name's Jeff. That's Mike. Today we are going to talk about communication. And I know we've talked about communication like 5 times already. Today we're going to talk about where it breaks down. We will be right back. Roll the beautiful bean footage. Hey, how you doing?
Oh, it's going to be fun.
Oh, I don't even know if it sounds good or not. I should probably listen to it. I think I should.
You remember that show? Are we recording?
Yeah. I don't know where to put stuff like this. Like, this is great stuff. All right. Mike, how you doing? What's going on?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Just, we're cruising through this week, and, it's a whole nother week, and we got to go do this, and I'm loving every bit of it. This
Absolutely.
is incredible to be able to just come here and, and for everybody that watches and listens or whatever, I mean, I really, really hope this is something that will help. And again, like we've always talked about, we're not professionals. We don't do this for a living or anything like that. We're just taking, our life experiences.
Yeah.
And applying them, letting people know, hey, this is how we do things. Maybe it'll work for you. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll guide you. Maybe you can take bits and pieces. But I mean, it's a joy to be able to come here and do this every week.
Yeah. And then along with our experiences, taking what people have talked to us about or the stereotypical husband experience or lacking husband experience. So we talk about being anti-failed marriage.
Yeah.
Why our marriage is failing. Well, here's a list of things that we think are why and how we can fix them. To start off with, uncommon questions.
Yay.
We do one of these at the beginning of every show. You can order the box. They are not sponsored, but hey, you never know what could happen. It's just something we like, random discussion starters. You guys to get to know who we are, us to laugh a little bit and have some fun. But there's a whole box of them. You see them on the table all the time. I do some of these with my wife just because it's fun. There's a bunch of different versions of this. But this week's question, describe the weirdest thing you have done when your brain was on autopilot.
Yeah, that awkward silence just happened in my brain. It's just like...
All right, you think about it, because I think I know what mine is. I think I'm old enough now, or I've been out long enough that I won't get in trouble for this, but driving a ship.
Oh, wow.
So... the average age I'm totally guessing here, but based on my experience, the average age of the person whose hands are physically on the steering wheel of an aircraft carrier right now is 20.
Wow.
Right?
That's a lot of responsibility.
That's an entry level job. I mean, you got to get certified to do it, but if you can hold a wheel and go that way, you can. Anyway, so middle of the night, we call it the balls to 4 watch, 00 to 4 a.m., midnight to 4 a.m. You're tired because you worked all day. You went to bed at 9. You got up at 11:30, went to work for 4 hours.
Oh.
Then you're going to go back to bed at 4:15 and then get up at 6 and go to work for a whole day. So you're just exhausted. So, and then you had a day watch somewhere in there. Anyway, you're supposed to go and you're looking at a compass because when you're driving an aircraft carrier, it's not like looking out the window. You don't see where you're going. 4 in the morning and you're just like... 45 minutes goes by.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah. There are probably some days I wasn't even sure I was awake, and you're just on autopilot. Pick a number and go. Anyway, weirdest thing you have done while your brain is on autopilot. We could probably all say some form of driving.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. But I mean,
you're driving 844 feet.
Yeah, there's something that just goes for that. I mean, wow. The weirdest,
Chief, if you're watching, I'm sorry.
The weirdest thing I've done. Oh, autopilot.
I can play drums on autopilot. I've done that.
Yeah, I'm not.
Just
that
be
good of a
so
bass
much
player.
in a song that you've done over and over again. You don't have to think about it. That's not weird, though.
No. I mean, I'm sitting there. It's probably watching my kids when they were little.
Oh.
You get into it and it's like, okay, I know they're here. Okay, there's no screaming.
We're doing this right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, autopilot.
Yeah.
We're in my house. We're in my garage. We've heard them. Hopefully you guys can't hear them. My children are running around. My wife's asleep. I have no idea what's happening.
Yeah. We're watching kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've had my wife's come home and I'm just like, oh yeah, everything's fine. And she'll walk into the kitchen,
I know where this
you
is
know,
going.
and there's my oldest daughter. She's a lot younger than, and she's got the spaghetti on the burner,
Oh my god.
just melting the
I've
spaghetti.
not had that.
And it's
happen.
kind of like, oh, everything's fine? Yeah, everything's fine.
Come here, look
Oh,
at
whoa, whoa, oh, I'm sorry.
this. Yeah, no, I've not had that happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things. I remember
Yeah.
I used to have really long hair. I mean, long hair.
Mm-hmm.
And I have girls.
Yeah.
And they would start brushing my hair, and it would just like, I would go into autopilot just doing anything, just continually
Sure.
that. And then I used to smoke back in the day. Don't do that. And I would go outside. I would never smoke in the house, and my neighbors were just like, hey, Mike, nice hairdo. I, I would have to think about it, and I'd come back, and I'd be like, oh, there's barrettes, there's bows, things like that. You just don't even think about it, and you're like, oh, yeah, thanks a lot, appreciate it. But
Mike.
yeah, pulling my motorcycle out. Oh, wait a minute. Nope.
Oh.
Yeah, I can
That's
go on for
fantastic.
days with those.
All right. Communication.
Communication is key.
Where awkward silent pause for dramatic effect. Communication. Where does it break down? So I'm gonna let you go first since you have the pause effect today. Where do you think communication breaks down? Specifically between boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, or even our kids, which
Oh,
is a parenting show.
Well, for me, I mean, communication breaks honestly, when it begins to stop.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. I mean, it's kind of like a renewing. Every time you're talking about something, it's easier and it's easier, even if the conversation is difficult. It's easier as if you get to do it. I know we talked about in the past weeks, you the 212,
Mm-hmm.
things like that, and
I still don't think my wife knows that I do that on purpose.
oh, well, she will now.
No, I think she's watched the show both times and doesn't realize.
Oh,
I
wow.
do
Oh wow. No, but I mean,
Communication.
it's great. It's needed in a good relationship. But I mean, for me, last week we talked about, the trust issues and things like
Yeah.
that. And I've learned over time, even, I'll take lunch. Usually I'll take my lunch to work. But there's days where I go out to get lunch, or I'll take my lunch hour and I'll go to the chiropractor or whatever like that. And I call my wife,
Yeah.
hey, how you doing? What's going on? And she'd be like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm going to get lunch, or I'm going to the chiropractor. And if she doesn't have a client or something like that, she'll talk with me. And, there's days where she's like, oh, you're going to lunch? Where are you going to lunch at? Oh, I'm going here or there. Can you bring me something? Sure. It's little things like that. But I mean, when communication, if I'm not doing that, and I think we talked about you had brought home lunch to Kim that one day.
Yeah.
But if I wasn't talking to my wife, or you weren't talking with your wife, we wouldn't know those things, and it'd be like, oh, you're grabbing yourself something to eat, little things like that. It chips away at it.
Yeah.
If you're not communicating, it chips away at it, and it just eventually
I was
breaks
trying
down.
to think. I was like, but I didn't ask her. I just brought her lunch.
Yeah. But I mean, but you communicate with her on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And therefore you know these things.
Yes. So when I think about where does it break down, when those things stop, or there's a lot of stuff happening upstairs.
They're happy. There's no screaming. We're good.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, sorry. My children live right there.
It's all
I'm
good.
starting to wonder if we got to hit pause and go
No,
check on them.
no, we're good.
Anyway, communication breaking down. Do we get to a point to where, and I assume this is true for everybody, but you're constantly saying you didn't tell me that.
Oh, yeah.
You're not I'm not saying you, but
Yeah, I get
we
that.
are not listening. Like, hey, we're supposed to go do this. You didn't tell me that. Well, yeah, I did. It's on our calendar. Like, oh crap.
We have a calendar? What?
Yeah, right.
I told you about that.
That kind of stuff happens to me all the time. And so, real talk in a Steve Harvey word. He says that all the time. um, that happens a lot. And that's, to me, that's maybe it's a breakdown in listening, but that's a breakdown in communication both ways. My wife told me something. I have no idea that she said it. So is the communication breaking down because I'm not paying attention or I'm not listening? You know, is our spouse becoming Charlie Brown's teacher? Like she said, life threatening information over here, and we just didn't hear it. That's like asking you to take out the trash. Hey, can you take out the trash? Hey, can you take out the trash? And finally, the trash is just sitting in your lap because you didn't listen.
Oh, hey,
and I'm not saying, I'm just horrible examples here, but those are kind of things of communication breaking down. Are you doing the fun texts?
Oh, yeah.
Like, not just the business text, like, hey, can you pick up milk on the way home? Or, hey, I got to take the kids to this thing. Because a breakdown of communication would be forgetting it was your day to pick up your kids from school.
Right.
Yeah.
Done that.
My wife would know. I would forget. Now, I'm Mr. Mom, so I'm the one that takes our kids to school. But on days that, like, if I had to go do something or have a dentist appointment or something, that's different enough from my wife's everyday schedule that I would text her several times.
Yeah.
But why do I have to text her several times? And I'm not bashing on my wife. I love my wife. My wife is fantastic. I married up, and there's just no question about that. But those are the kind of things we're talking about, communication breaking down. But that can extend into everything. Is that the same way we treat our kids? Is that the same way we treat our coworkers?
Right.
Like, are we getting to the point where we're just not paying attention or communicating to everybody? And that gets its way into the bedroom. We're going to be family friendly, I promise. But, hey, I don't like that. Well, if you don't say you don't like that, or you're not listening, and you keep going through things you don't like, then you just stop doing things you like altogether.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we think through communication breaking down. It stopped or changed drastically. It's not the same it was when you were dating. The fun. That's the way when Kim and I, we call them strategy meetings. When we do our monthly, so we have date night, but we have strategy meetings. It's a very professional business sounding term, right? We sit down and we talk through life, just life in general, our goals individually, like what are my goals, what are her goals, and then how are we doing, like a marriage assessment, not like full on like taking a quiz, but like, hey, are you doing okay with where we are at as a couple? And that's the honest, like, hey, I don't think we're doing it enough, or hey, can we switch some of the chore list, because we divide up our chores. I don't just do them all. She doesn't just do them all. But hey, I'm really busy this month. Can we switch up? Can you do this instead?
Yeah.
Which I think is fantastic. I know it's weird, but it works. And maybe that's part of something we can put on our list of things to talk about. What does a normal conversation look like?
Yeah.
But when those things stop and you're not having the conversations about life and where you're going, like the things you had conversations about when you were dating or newlyweds or whatever, when those things have stopped, there's a breakdown in communication.
Yeah.
And like, think of it the same way with work. How does stuff make it from the top down? Well, hopefully in your marriage, you're both at the top. So how are you communicating across and then down if you have kids, family, dog, whatever? Because I can see it in my kids. Like, I'm teaching my 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds.
Oh.
They're 6. How to read. And one of my daughters, like, I get so frustrated. We'll go through, like, these are the letter sounds, these are the letter sounds, these are the letter sounds. And then I turn the recorder on to do the test. Immediately shuts down. And I'm just like, hey, we need to do this. Hey, we need to do this. And she's done.
Oh.
That's it. There's no talking. There's no figuring it out. Like, there's not a popsicle in the world that's going to fix this problem. And we're done for the day. And that's just, I've figured it out now. But at the beginning of the year, I would get, like, grumpy. Like, come on, we got to do this. And now it's we'll figure it out tomorrow. And those kind of things, like learning that process along the way. But we say this because we both think that communication is foundational to marriage.
Definitely.
Like, you can't have just a physical relationship. You could, but it's not going to be a very long one, in my opinion. So like, and it's talking, it's all of that stuff. I'll let you go with this one, but you had talked about the smart man.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
run with that.
the smart man builds his house on a firm foundation,
Mm-hmm.
rock,
Yeah.
not sand. Sand will erode, sand washes away the foundation that you lay, cracks, falls apart, the house falls down. Think of your marriage as a house. If you don't have a good foundation, whatever you build will collapse.
Mm-hmm.
And either you can rebuild it or it just washes away. It takes effort. We always talk about it's 100 and 100 in here. Marriage is 100% each way.
Yeah.
We all have to give 100%. But if you're going to communicate, take the time. Everybody, take the time. Put your phone down.
Yeah.
Turn the TV off. Hit mute at least. Something.
Mm-hmm.
Make
Oh, I
an
have
effort. Oh yeah, or else I'm done.
And Kim does that to me a lot. But Kim will do it even for like if I want to show her a TikTok. Like if I want to show her something I thought she'll stop whatever she's watching. Like she'll pause a movie
Yeah.
or she'll be like, okay, I'm paying attention. I'm horrible at that. I don't, but I'll like put my phone down or at least look at her, right?
No, I get TV zoned. If there's something
Yeah.
on, I can. Stephanie, my wife, could have a full on conversation with me,
And yeah.
and I would not hear a word. And then she would expect me to do what she asked me to do, and it's horrible for me.
Oh, I feel horrible because I literally don't remember what we were talking about either. But this happened to Kim and I at dinner a couple weeks ago. So we're sitting at dinner. Oh, what did we talk about? Oh, we were talking about whether or not to switch our regular like bills and monthly stuff from our debit card to our credit card
Oh, okay.
for the rewards points.
Yeah.
Because that's one of our like, hey, we're talking about where we're at. And she was talking. I was paying attention. I think I was paying attention. Like I remember what we were talking about now. And the waiter came up. And so we like ordered dinner and all of this stuff happened. And it was like 10 minutes later. I'm like, you just told me something. And I honestly don't remember what we were talking. I looked at her like, can you finish the thought? She's like, what are you talking about? I was like, we were talking about money. And I really have no idea what we were talking about. And she looked at me again. She's like, what are you talking about? I was like, you were telling me something about the credit card. And then she's like, oh, can we do this? And I'm like, so I had to like, I use notes in my
Yeah.
phone. And that's the time. If you're going to write down what your wife says, pick up your phone. So I had to like put it in my phone. Like, okay, this is like a task list item. I need to do this on Monday when I sit down and look at our bills. But like twice I had to ask her what we were talking about because I was just so distracted from what was happening. Like I was watching the kids eat chips and salsa. The waiter came up, we ordered food. And then like we went through a whole appetizer before I realized we didn't finish the conversation or I didn't hear the end of the conversation.
Right.
And that's okay. That's
Yeah.
one of the things I think is important to, if you don't hear, and we didn't show prep this. If you don't hear what your wife says, go ask her.
Yeah.
Like that's
absolutely.
okay.
Again, I always talk about the man pride and stuff like that.
Man pride. Yeah.
It's don't.
You're not going to lose your man card going
Yeah.
and asking your wife what's happening.
Yeah, it's okay to go back and say, you know what, I'm sorry, I got distracted. What were we talking about? And they'll go right over it. It's not a big deal, but they'll like that more, that you were interested in them enough to know what they
Yeah.
wanted to talk about.
And I think that speaks more than even remembering the conversation.
Yeah.
It's just being like, I missed something. Can we talk about it? And that's what we say. If you feel like there's a breakdown in communication, and we're going to talk a lot more about this as we go through the next 4 or 5
Yeah.
weeks of this, because communication we can break down. Like we talk about listening to listen, listening to fix it, listen for support. When they're generally talking to us about things we don't really care about, which is
Right.
horrible to say, but we're being honest, right? Hey, hold on a second. Go. Now that the break's over, real life, right? It happens.
Yeah.
Sorry, my 5-year-old just 6-year-old just interrupted us, and she's not doing anything wrong. She probably wants a snack, and we're gonna wrap up here in a minute. But I totally lost my train of thought. I was very distracted. What was I talking
I'm
about?
sorry, I don't remember what you're talking about. I wasn't listening. Were we communicating?
Real talk, right? Are you even listening to me? Go back and watch that show. 212 and 222.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about, how
Oh, genuinely taking interest in their
Yeah.
life. Like communication breaks down if you're not having regular conversations to understand what's going on. And talking about like goals and stuff like that. We were talking about goals and stuff, and I think you brought up a really good point that we didn't really address. We're not talking like your individual career goals and stuff don't need to be the same. I have no desire to do what my wife does
No.
ever. And she's not a gearhead, nor does
Right.
she want to do this kind of stuff regularly. But our life goals, how many kids we want to have, where we want to be financially next year, those kind of things, you need to talk about them.
Oh, yeah.
But a good step is asking your wife how they're doing. If you don't regularly ask your wife how you're doing, she's going to think something's wrong when you do. So ask her twice. Not like back to back. Ask her today and ask her tomorrow. But a good step towards if you think your communication's broken down, you think that you don't talk, take a genuine interest in what your wife is doing. And not that you need to know everything about what they do. I don't care everything that my wife does, and that's not a bad thing. But I do genuinely want to know how she's doing. Like if she's had a bad day at work, I can't fix it, but I can listen and get her a cup of coffee, or in our house, let's go get chicken. Those are the kind of things that we do, and just taking a genuine interest in what they're doing. And our wives, my wife does it for me, and that goes both ways. Ladies, if you're watching, we know you don't care what we do about work, and if you do care, that's awesome. But we know most of you don't really care what we do at work all day. But just ask him, like, hey, how was work?
Yeah.
And if he says fine, that's not okay. Ask him how his day really was. Anyway,
we get
those
that.
kind of things are cool. Just taking a genuine interest in what's going on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Stephanie does that to me.
Sure.
And there's a lot of times where we get off work sort of close together, or, if we do happen to get off work right on time, we talk to each other on the way home. It's great. We'll call each other.
Pre-COVID, we did that.
Oh, yeah. Well,
And that's one of those, I don't really care what my wife's talking about. My wife used to have a 30-minute drive home from work.
Yeah.
I've literally put the phone down and walked away. And she knows this. Like, she's like, I know you're like going to go to the bathroom or cook dinner or whatever. I know you're not paying attention. I just need to vent about what happened at work today.
Right.
All the time.
That's listening. I mean, that shows.
Well, that wasn't listening, but
Well,
it's taking an
listening.
interest in the needs at the moment.
Yeah, it shows you care.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, okay, and especially if she understands, hey, I'm calling to vent.
Yeah.
And Stephanie's called me up and said, I've had a really bad day. I need to vent. Great. Thank you for giving me that upfront notice.
Yep. We're going to get into
Cool.
how that works in a couple of episodes.
Yeah.
But I think it's a genuine interest, and it's, guys, I know this is tough, and I struggle with this a lot, is we want to be number one at work.
Yeah.
We want to be number one at life, and we want to be number one with our kids and sports and whatever. You have to want to be number one with your marriage.
Yes.
And yes, I know it's 100% your marriage and it's 100% at work. You can have both, but you have to work for both. We were talking about it last week or the week before. You're doing all these things with your wife and for your wife, but you're also going to school and you work full time. So you have 3 full-time jobs that you're doing, plus you're a dad and a grandpa.
Right.
That's a lot going on. That's a lot to spread. And there needs to be a priority.
Oh, definitely.
And this is not anything related to communication, but there are things that I do that my kids have noticed. Like, I feed my children. Like, I cook dinner. I miss their mom in our house. I put my kids' food on their plate, put it on the table, and then I let my wife eat. I've not had a hot meal in 14 years. It's probably not quite 14. I've had kids for 7 of those. I've not had a hot dinner that I've made in 7 years. That's not a bad thing. Microwaves are wonderful.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of putting the effort in to make sure my family and my wife is taken care of. And I think all the rest of the stuff is doing pretty good too. I think I do okay at work. I have a weird job, so it's hard to be number one. But those are the kind of things we're talking about. It takes effort.
Yeah.
Communication is a big part of that effort, because if you're talking about what's going on in your day or what's going on in your life, when you can't give 100 and your wife knows about it, making up the whatever's missing is a lot easier.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Well, I mean, for me, I know it's marriage for me is not for the weak. Not at all. I mean,
It's not a walk in the park.
yeah, if you're going to go in and you're going to get married, I mean, as you start to date, you can see things progressing and you get married. Know that it's work. It's not just, hey, it's going to be roses and sunshine all the time. It's not. I mean, there's times where, you know, I know we've talked about in past episodes, you know, you guys don't necessarily argue. But Stephanie and I have had some pretty bad arguments. And, you know, we'll get into that later on in some episodes to come about fighting fair. But you need to understand, or you guys need to understand, that if you're not married and you're thinking about getting married, my youngest daughter's thinking about getting married. So, hey, Andrew, I know you better be watching. It's not going to be easy.
Out now.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy.
No.
And you need to work at it. It's going to be a rough road.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not trying to scare anybody by no means.
No.
It's an amazing road to go down if you're committed.
And that's for a lot of the guys that sit in my living room and gals. They didn't know that going in.
Right.
And they needed to hear it now or then or whenever, that this isn't like it. This doesn't just happen.
Right.
And communication is a very important, like, foundational part of that. You know, I've had people sit in my living room for, we call them gripe sessions, and just be like, I don't know where we're going. I don't know what we're doing. I'm like, why do you talk to each other? Well, no. Well, no wonder you don't know where you're going or what's going on. So talk to each other. But, yeah, I'm with you. Like, that makes sense. Like, you got to be able to work at it.
Definitely.
And for some guys, their love language is going to make this easy. And for other guys, it's not.
Right.
And you're going to have to work a little bit harder. You have to want to be married.
Yeah.
Because if you don't want to be married, you can sign some papers and not be married, or just not get married to begin with.
Yeah. And we're not pushing for that, guys.
No,
by no means at all.
No. But you got to want it.
Yeah. You took the steps to start it.
Yeah.
It's a lifelong commitment. Finish it.
Yeah. All right. Guys, we are out of time.
Yes, sir.
So, hit the like button. Leave us some comments. Tell us we have no idea what we're talking about. We'll read those too. Don't troll us. If you just genuinely don't like what we have to say, you can comment. But if you're trolling, just go troll somebody else. Leave us a comment. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to see what we're doing next week. I don't know what we're doing next week, but the camera's going to shut off in like 10 seconds. So we will see you next week. Peace.